Throw them hooks out like we know Kareem. Spit it for God, we don't need a deal. Feeding the hungry, give them a meal. Helping the homeless, cause that's how we feel. We follow Messiah, cause that is what's real. You twisting the scriptures, you know that I hate it. Feel like Trey Songz, cause I gotta make it. He giving out blessings, you know I'ma take it. These precepts authentic, so no need to fake it. Train up a child, just look.
Shalom, family. I made a post. I want to say this morning. I believe it was this morning. But I want to explain it a little bit, and I want to, expound on my question. So, many of you celebrated Feast of Trumpets, Yom Teruah, yesterday. Some people observed it from evening to evening, some from morning to morning. I'm not here to talk about evening to evening and morning to morning, but what a lot of us come to the conclusion is you observe it on the correct day-ish, right? Because you're following the moon. You're utilizing the moon to keep the Most High's appointed feast days. Now, this is what I don't understand. Like I said in my post, how are we using the moon to pinpoint and to keep track and observe the Most High's appointed feast days, such as Feast of Trumpets, Passover, Day of Atonement, which is coming up, by the way, all of these different feast days, but yet when it comes to the weekly Sabbath, which is another one of the Most High's appointed days, his set apart days, right? We jump back to the Gregorian calendar and say that it's on Saturday or Friday or Sunday. How are we using what the Most High gave us to use, which goes back to the beginning of creation, the moon, right? How are we using that for the feast days? But then when it comes down to the weekly Sabbath, which also was instituted in the beginning of creation, not in 1582 AD, we go back to the Gregorian calendar that's less than 500 years old to keep the weekly Sabbath. How? What part of that makes sense to y'all? And I know I sound very aggressive, right? It just doesn't make sense to me. I don't get it anymore. Like, I'm watching it and I'm like, do you realize that in these cases of you using the moon for a feast day, and then you're still trying to keep the Gregorian, week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or Sunday, if you're starting the week that way, to keep the Sabbath? How does that sound to you? Do you know that you're going to have a feast day and then a Sabbath day the next day or a few days later? You only literally have a few days in between Sabbaths? How does that make sense to you? The calendar, right? Not a specific observance, a calendar. I mean, I love my family. I love y'all, but we got to do better. The whole calendar. Right here, verse 14. This is Genesis chapter 1. It says, and the Most High said, let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years. Sign, what is a sign? Look into the Hebrew. It's going to be the same explanation that I'm going to give you. It's instruction. Hey, if you're driving down the road, you see a sign that says stop, the bridge is out. You going to keep going or you going to follow that sign? Okay, it's direction, it's instruction, it's direction, how to guide us, right? Seasons, it's not winter, summer, spring, fall. Seasons is the Hebrew word moedim, his appointed times, his appointed feast days and Sabbath days and new moon days. Moed, right? And for days and years, and it's just that, the days and the years. So if something is giving you instruction or guiding you in order to keep the Most High's appointed days, years, and his appointed feast days, which includes New Moon Day, the Sabbath, and the holy days, the feasts, is that not a calendar? Is that not a timepiece? So how do we overlook this verse and then we keep a weekly Sabbath according to the Gregorian calendar, like I said earlier, which is less than 500 years old? But we're going back to Genesis 1:14, right? And we're going to the moon to keep the feast days. So you got your feet 1 foot in the Most High's calendar and 1 foot out of the Most High's calendar. Nobody is utilizing New Moon Day. Nobody's recognizing New Moon Day. It's a significant holy day that the Most High instituted that we are to observe. It is the first, it's the first day of the biblical month. So why are we ignoring it? And then when we try to explain the Most High's calendar to you, you get caught up on, oh, well, if New Moon Day is the first day of the month, then you got 8 days before the Shabbat. No, New Moon is its own day. Then you have 6 working days, just like Exodus and Leviticus and all the other places where the Sabbath is mentioned. You have 6 working days and a 7th-day Sabbath. Look into your Bibles for y'all who are keeping a Gregorian calendar to keep Saturday or Friday or Sunday or whatever day. Look into the Bible. You're not going to find any Sabbath in the whole Bible that doesn't fall on a 8th, 15th, 22nd, or 29th day of the month. Go look in your Bible. And then come back and holler at me. Because New Moon is its own day. It's its own set apart day. The month begins with New Moon. You have your 6 working days, your 7-day Shabbat. 6 working days, 7-day Shabbat. 6 working days, 7-day Shabbat. 6 working days, 7-day Shabbat. And then you have New Moon again because the next month starts it over. The moon doesn't change. The moon's phases are the same. Right? The sun doesn't change. The sun's courses is the same. The stars don't change. Let me continue reading. Verse 15. And let them be for lights in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth. And it was so. And the Most High made 2 great lights. The greater rule the day, and the lesser to rule the night. He made the stars also. The sun, the moon, and the stars all play a significant role in the Most High's calendar in the keeping of time. Our ancient forefathers didn't have this type of technology. All they had to do was look up in the sky and observe. The sun lets you know when the day is, what time of day it is. The moon lets you know when the month begins and when your weekly Sabbaths begin. And the stars let you know what time of year you're in. It's all in the stars. And the reason why he did that is because he knew we, being mankind, are wicked and would want to change. Go to the book of Daniel. For he will seek to change times and laws. Look what the Catholic Church has done. They messed with everything. The Roman society, they're the ones who created the Gregorian calendar and the Julian calendar before that, and the Roman calendars, the cluster of calendars before that, going all the way back to 782 BC for Rome. But we are using a brand new baby calendar to keep these ancient set apart days. It don't line up, family. I love y'all, but we need to wake up. We need to wake up. Look into the information I just shared with you. Look into the information I just shared with you. Let me quickly give you a visual representation of what a biblical month is supposed to look like. This is what a biblical month is supposed to look like. And it does not align with our typical Gregorian calendar. What you see right now is the month of September. This is what the month of September looks. These dark blue lines are your Shabbats. The light blue line is a feast day. These orange lines and what this orange circle is, it's a new moon day, which is why yesterday was Feast of Trumpets. Okay. But I'm going to show you what a biblical month looks like. And they all are the same. It starts with New Moon Day. It's the first day of the month. It is not counted in the work week. Why? Because it is not a work day. It is a set apart observing day. It's a holy day. Okay. So it's not counted in a work week. You have 6 working days. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And a 7th day Shabbat or Sabbath. That's why the Sabbath is always going to be the 8th, the 15th, the 22nd, or the 29th day of the month. Biblical months are either 29 days long or 30 days long. On a 30-day month, you have what's called 2 consecutive new moon days. And if you don't want to hear that, or you don't think that it's legit, go to 1 Samuel chapter 20 when David was talking to Jonathan, and that's biblical proof. Or you can go to my YouTube channel. We broke it down for you. It's all there, family. All you got to do is look up at the sky every time the evening hits. Look at the moon. See what phase of the moon it is. If it's an empty moon, you ain't gonna be able to see it because you already know that it's new moon day. That first sliver of light, because the moon gains light for half the month and becomes a full moon, then it loses light for half the month. Once it loses all of its light, the biblical month is over with. The moon's light in its phases lets you know the biblical month. So you look up in the sky, right? You finally see that half moon. Guess what? That's your first Shabbat. Your first Shabbat. When it gets to a full moon, that's your second Shabbat. When it gets to a half moon, because the light comes out of it now, once it gets back to a half moon on the other side, that is your third Shabbat. And that last little sliver of light before the month ends, that's your fourth and final Shabbat. And it will line up according with all of these days I just mentioned. Okay. So, family, please stop having one foot in paganism and another foot in the Most High's calendar, and let's all be all in. I know a lot of y'all don't do it out of spite or malice. A lot of you guys have been taught this by your pastors, teachers, elders, camp leaders, whoever, right? And a lot of you haven't been given this information. So this is why I'm sharing it with you, okay? So going back to my post just yesterday or earlier this morning, I think it was, right? Why are we using the moon, which the Most High told us to keep his feast days and then turn around and go back to a pagan Gregorian calendar that's less than 500 years old to keep his weekly Shabbats? It should all be on one thing. It should all be on one thing. But that being said, family, if you want to know more about the lunisolar, the Most High's true calendar, get with me. I love to help you out. Love to. But y'all take it easy, man. Shalom, shalom.
Keep the Shabbat and you know the feast days, cause the lunisolar is always the basis. I'ma serve him till I die. Guard the Torah like we S.I.N.A. With all my soul, yeah, you know I'm gonna try. So everybody, praise the Most High.
Go killer.